Welcome to Embrace Your Inner Boldness, the podcast dedicated to empowering you to live confidently, embracing all parts of who you truly are. I'm Melissa Henning-Frank, and I'm the founder, success coach, and consultant of Becoming Bold LLC, and you can count on me to be your guide on this incredible journey of self-discovery and transformation. Let's get right to it. Hello. Today, we're going to talk about kind of a heavy topic, something that can really bog people down if they're not willing or ready to go through the process of forgiveness. Question for you: who or what pops into your mind when I ask you who or what in your life needs to be forgiven? And then, why have you not forgiven them? It might make you uncomfortable to contemplate this, and that's normal, and that's understandable, and that's really important. Today we're going to go super deep, and we'll be unpacking the reasons we don't forgive. If the need to forgive is buried in your metaphorical backpack that I tend to refer to, this episode is absolutely for you. We'll talk about how the act of forgiveness positively impacts not only you, but how it ripples out and positively impacts the people around you too. I will say, if you don't have time right now to dig deep and really consider releasing the grip that not forgiving has on you, pause and come back to this podcast later. Or you could listen through and then come back later to really allow it to sink in more deeply too. When I asked you who pops into your mind about someone you've not yet forgiven or a thing or things that you've not yet forgiven, did you happen to add yourself to that list? I remember a time my coach asked me about my healing journey as it relates to forgiveness, and they specifically asked, "Have you forgiven yourself?" Immediately I was taken off guard and I didn't know how to respond. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what the hell they were talking about. Because what do you mean, forgive myself? I didn't do those things to myself. Why do I need to forgive myself? What could I possibly need to forgive myself about? After a few seconds of uncomfortable silence, I said, for the most part. And I don't even know where that came from because I didn't mean that. And the response to that was, so that's a no, and we'll work on that. I still didn't quite know what that meant, but okay, wow, here we go. I really didn't understand what that meant, what the process of forgiveness really entailed. So I'm here to help you dig a little bit deeper into that topic that can be really uncomfortable and is so important. So what is forgiveness? To forgive, according to the dictionary, involves letting go of resentment or anger towards someone who has done something wrong. I will add that forgiveness plays a major role in emotional healing because without it, you're walking around with a wound or wounds still wide open or partially open as time goes by, and it feels like the wound gets smaller until something happens that really makes it feel big again. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Forgiveness is not an occasional act. It is a constant attitude." So to me, that means we have to keep going in the direction of forgiveness. And it may take a while to actually release the grip that not forgiving has held on us. So back to the idea of forgiving yourself. Why would that even be a thing? Regardless of what happened, the thing or things that need forgiving, whether or not you had any involvement or any control whatsoever or any choice in the matter, there's likely some heavy guilt and shame that you hold within yourself about it. You might arrive at a point in your healing like I did where you get angry with yourself about the things you tolerated, the things you let happen. Maybe it was allowing boundaries to be crossed, putting up with poor treatment, or worse, abuse. Maybe it was how you treated yourself, how you treated your body, your mind, your spirit. Or maybe it was giving into pressures, feeling helpless to make things better, or whatever happened that made you feel like you had to give your power away. Forgiving yourself can allow you to release any negative emotions and recognize that you're not responsible for every outcome. It is not your burden to bear. Forgiving yourself can allow you to move forward. Whether you realize it or not, you may be emotionally stuck at whatever time frame the thing or things happened without the conscious knowledge that you're being held back. One of my all-time favorite podcasters and authors, Gabby Bernstein, is known to say the act of forgiveness is the act of returning to present time. And that really resonated with me because to me that means forgiveness is letting the past be in the past so you can move forward today. It's freaking freedom from the chains holding you down. Forgiveness could also facilitate the breaking of generational patterns and traumas when you decide to get free from the energy of not forgiving. The emotional trauma from carrying grudges doesn't get passed on when someone decides to put a stop to that pattern and finally break the chains. If I'm being honest, when my coach asked me if I had forgiven myself, my immediate feeling in my body was an absolute no. I knew that I hadn't forgiven myself, but I was definitely in denial because I didn't understand that there would be reasons to forgive myself. So we'll talk a little bit more about how you can go about that process later on in the episode. Next, we're going to talk about forgiving others. Forgiving others can also allow you to release negative emotions, and it can also help you realize that what others have done is not your burden to bear when you can forgive them. It doesn't mean that you're letting the person off the hook or letting them get away with something. It means that you are making the decision to not bear a burden that's not yours to bear. Forgiving others is freedom for you. It opens the door so you can experience inner peace and move forward with a lighter heart. Forgiveness allows you to embrace your inner boldness finally and feel the confidence that you had in you all along. To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was you. That's a quote by Lewis Smedes that I thought was really applicable to that statement. Holding on to grudges doesn't feel good. It lowers your vibration and it's going to hinder your personal growth. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. I can't remember who said that, but it is a statement. Oh, actually, it was Nelson Mandela. Forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about releasing that limiting, heavy, useless grip that not forgiving will have on you. Forgiveness makes you lighter. Forgiveness makes you free. Forgiveness is going to send ripples of positive energy out into the world, and especially to those around you. They will absolutely feel the lightness in your energy when you're able to let that go and release the grip. So why do we resist? Why does the thought of forgiving someone who hurt us feel so not right? Why do we stay stuck? Let's go through some common reasons and stories that we tell ourselves about why we can't or won't forgive. Number one, I'm protecting myself. We often convince ourselves that holding on to anger or resentment is a way to protect ourselves from being hurt again. The story we're telling ourselves when we think this is that forgiveness equates to vulnerability, which can be really frightening when you've been hurt. If we can stay angry enough about it, we won't let our guard down. People will know that we are unfuckwithable, as I affectionately refer to it. This self-protection narrative may feel needed in the short term, but it won't serve us well in the long term. If this is you, here are some things to consider. Reflect on the difference between healthy boundaries and holding grudges. There's a big difference in the energy of each of those and how each of those will manifest in your life. So if you really want to protect yourself, work on getting really good at setting and upholding healthy boundaries without that anger, without that resentment, all of that low vibrational energy. Practice self-care and self-compassion so you can build your sense of safety without harboring anger. There may be a need to become aware of anything you need to forgive within yourself too. And if you're blaming yourself for any reason, there's something there for you to work on. So throughout this process, just make sure that you're super compassionate with yourself. Number 2, they don't deserve forgiveness. We might believe that the person who hurt us doesn't deserve to be forgiven, especially if their actions were painful or unjust. This story focuses on the perceived justice of withholding forgiveness. We tell ourselves that they remain guilty and bad as long as we and all of those around us perceive them to be guilty and bad. You forgiving them won't change them from guilty to innocent or from bad to good. If that's their true nature, it's completely up to them to change. If someone doesn't see a problem with the way they treat people, you can't change them. You can't make them care. You can only change how you treat yourself. And this is why the topic of setting boundaries comes up so much. Maybe not focusing so hard on them will allow you to move forward with you. On the flip side, no one's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody makes bad choices. And doing something bad doesn't always mean you're permanently a bad person. If someone truly takes responsibility for their actions and are held accountable for what they did, and then they decide that they're going to make the necessary changes to become a better person, is it possible that they need some grace extended to them? So if you're clinging to the deserving or not deserving narrative, consider these things. Remember that forgiveness is for your benefit, not necessarily theirs. And reflect on times that you were forgiven for things that you said or did and how it impacted your healing. Number 3, forgiving means forgetting. Some people think that forgiving someone means forgetting what happened or diminishing its significance. And this story can make forgiveness seem like we're trying to just erase important experiences and things that were really impactful to us. Deep down, we probably feel as though we're opening up a door for bad things to happen again if we forgive whatever it was that happened before. It's like we think there's some kind of memory remover that takes away what happened and gives the guilty person some kind of reward that they really don't freaking deserve. Another good saying I found that reminds me of this story that we tell ourselves is by Paul Bosey, and it goes, "Forgiveness does not change the past, but it does enlarge the future." So some things to consider if this is something holding you back from forgiving. Acknowledge that you can forgive without forgetting. It's about releasing emotional baggage. It's not about releasing any kind of control. It's not about releasing any kind of accountability on their part. It's about you releasing emotional baggage. And then take some time to write, journal, take some notes about what you've learned from the experience to honor its impact without holding on to pain. If you truly want to let something go, this is such a good activity to do. Write down everything that's in your head. Truly just get it out with pen and paper. And then take that paper once you're done getting all of your thoughts out. You can tear it up, you can burn it, whatever way symbolizes your ability to release the grip that situation has held on you. The fourth one of the stories we tell ourselves, we might tell ourselves that it's not hurting me. This is sort of a denial narrative. We might downplay the impact of holding grudges by convincing ourselves that it isn't affecting us. We're really, truly in a denial state. This story definitely stems from a place of denial about the emotional and physical toll of resentment. Maybe we've told ourselves it wasn't that bad, or maybe someone else told you that, or maybe you were told that worse things have happened to other people, or that you're being too sensitive about it, so you decide to push it way down and act as if it doesn't bother you. If something happened to you and for whatever reason people around you invalidated that experience, it's possible that your defense mechanism is to really just push it down and try to forget it. But that doesn't happen. So if you're relating to the narrative of being in denial about something that you need to forgive, pay attention to how holding on to anger affects you. It's likely affecting your mood, your health. It's definitely showing up in your relationships. It's likely that you've got emotions stored in your body that's going to express themselves when you least expect it, and definitely when it's not convenient timing. So practice mindfulness to become more aware of your emotional state, why you're doing what you're doing, why you're behaving the way you're behaving, why you're feeling the way you're feeling, and all of the things that impact your well-being. Number 5, I'm right to be angry. So this is holding on to grudges because it feels like you're justified in doing so, especially if you believe that you were wronged. And this story is about validating our anger and feeling entitled to hold on to it as a form of justice. Holding on to anger gives you the illusion of control. It gives you the feeling that you are in charge, especially when you've been hurt, because when you've been hurt, being in control feels like a priority. Maybe you are right to be angry. Maybe you are justified to hold a grudge, but does that benefit you? Does it make you feel as if you're healing? Is there a better way to feel in general? Does that anger impact your relationships? It likely does, even if you're not fully aware that that's happening. So if holding on to anger has been your defense mechanism, consider these tips for releasing it because you deserve to feel peace. Reflect on the long-term benefits of holding on to anger versus the benefits of letting go. You need to feel your feelings. You need to let them process through you. And eventually you need to let that go and find a better feeling. Consider how releasing anger might create space for you. Meaning, in what ways is your anger holding you back? And how could letting it go open up something new and better for you? How would it feel to finally say, yep, I've been through some shit and I had to learn how to adapt. And I've been clinging to that energy for way too long. It's been part of my identity for way too long. Take some time to work through that process. Thank yourself for helping you survive, regardless of which story resonates the most of you about why you're not forgiving, and allow yourself to release that grip once and for all. To sum up today's episode about releasing the grip, we covered the importance of forgiving others and forgiving yourself, as well as going over the common stories or narratives that we tell ourselves when we're not ready or willing to release the grip. I'm hopeful that you'll feel equipped to begin the process of forgiveness. Your action item this week is take a step, just one step, one little baby step toward forgiving that person who popped into your mind at the beginning of this episode. We talked about a lot of different actionable tips to start going in the direction of increasing forgiveness in your life. So use some of those and pay attention to the positive changes that begin to show up in your world. It's not an overnight process, by the way. It's going to take trial and error, most likely. It's going to take time. And I acknowledge this is a really tough topic. So I hope you have the courage to give yourself closure. And while you're teaching yourself how to forgive, please remember to be kind to your mind. Thanks so much for joining me on this episode of Embrace Your Inner Boldness. I hope you found inspiration and actionable tips to help you live more confidently. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss out on the latest insights and empowering stories. Please take a moment to also leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners and continue bringing you more content that uplifts and motivates. Empowering yourself and or your team starts with embracing your inner boldness. When we stop playing small, we open the door to limitless potential. Remember, the only limit to your greatness is the one you set for yourself. Stay bold, stay fearless, and let's make this journey unforgettable.